Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG deck lists. And on today we've got Simon He, a prolific Sky Striker player who has been showing off just what he can do with this deck over the past couple of years. And most importantly, he's recently just announced that he's going to be taking on the Worlds race this season. So good luck to him in that. We're going to have him on in just a minute to discuss this deck and how the building process has gone over the past couple of events. But he took this deck to regionals in the UK, made back-to-back first place, and then topped a couple more. So top four at the other two, I think, as well. So really, really strong competitor and doing phenomenally in the regional season in the UK so far. So let's quickly run through the list then. Let's look at the sort of non-standard stuff. So 2 Call by the Grave, 3 Cyclone, and 1 Universe, all in the main deck. But I think what really makes this list stand out is the use of Into the Void in the main deck. We have actually seen this picked up in a couple of places in the UK, but it's not a super popular idea. But using Into the Void gives you that extra spell in the graveyard, that extra advantage. It's fulfilling that placeholder slot, which makes cards like this and Upstart Goblins so very powerful and increases your consistency to see engage, because if you see engage, then you're going to do very, very well within the game. Otherwise, fairly standard. I guess we've got a set rotation here, only 2 Shark Cannon, one-ofs for pretty much everything that you can go for apart from the Vector Blast, and then for hand traps, just the 3 impermanents, and for floodgates triple, there can be only 1. No use of card of demise in this build, just focusing on having that hand advantage so that your Into the Voids are always live and you can just rip apart boards anyway with the Sky Striker spells. For the extra deck, there's the 1 Dingirsu. Now, we did see this sort of discussion on how this turns a losing game state into a winning game state, and I think that's exactly what he's channeling with this build. For the rest of the deck, we have the usual lineup of extra deck monsters. I guess the Ningirsu is more of an option. The usual Link 4s as well, meaning that Topologic Bomber Dragon in the extra. Very interestingly, he's only gone for 2 Hayate, but he's doubled up on the Kaina as well, so we'll definitely have to ask him about this one. As for the side deck, triple Shared Ride, double System Down, you need to have that big impact in the Orcus matchup. 1 Twin Twisters, triple Dusters, double Lost Wind, 2 Trap Trick, and 2 Compulsory Evacuation Device. So that is it for the list. Let's bring on Simon to discuss these events and how it's all been going. Yeah, so Striker is something that obviously you've been playing for a very long time, for various reasons, and I think it's certainly one that dips in and out of the meta from a popularity perspective. Do you have any thoughts on why you decided to continue playing it, or do you think it's the same reasons as always?
Yeah, it's a mix between laziness and and it being a tier 1 deck. So
okay.
I played this deck from September 2018 until pretty much right now for all the big events. I have been testing every other deck, but I just like the interactions that Striker has. It puts you more in control, especially in the mirror match, whereas like combo decks, they don't really put you in that much control in the mirror matches. So yeah. It has been shown that Striker has been the best deck in the past year in terms of how many YCS it has won and topped. There were 2, so like I'm not playing it because 100% because I was being lazy. It is because it was the best deck for most of the events. The exception to this was like the run up towards European Championships, or if you're in the US, the National Championships, the main WCQ. And right now, actually, I don't think it's the best deck right now. And the best deck right now is probably Orcus, with the results we've been given it. It's actually quite difficult. I just came back from YCS Pasadena, and it was an absolute disaster. I lost to Orcus several times, and it was just how versatile Orcus was to dealing with the Striker stuff, and Striker has been weakened with the one with Anchor and things like that. Although Striker has adapted to dealing with that, and it might be because I was facing against weaker players, but before YCS Pasadena, I played like 5 tournaments within like 3 weeks, so like 4 regionals and 1 YCS. And
Yeah.
the only 3 matches that I lost in the aggregate of all of them were to 3 Pendulum players, which is a very bad matchup. So
Yeah.
I kind of got a little overconfident because every time, if you see my if you can see my list, I'm playing Into the Void, so I usually go second.
Yeah.
And when you go second with the 6th card, you're playing 3 Upstart Goblins, essentially. You're playing 36 cards. So it's extremely powerful going second. You almost always see Engage, and you almost always see Ray as well. And against the Orcus players that I've been playing, it just blew them out going second completely. I end up with, I clear their board, I clear their graveyard, and I end up with multi-roll with several interruptions and a Shizuku.
And importantly, this is post the release of Masquerena.
Yes, this is.
Which means they have even more interrupts.
They do. Well, the thing is with Masquerena is that if you have Call by the Graves and Shark Cannon, and as you can see, I'm playing 3 Cosmic, it's actually better for me if they go for Masquerena. It is definitely a troublesome play, which is why I didn't go for the Demise build. Because the Demise build, if you go second, you can't special summon. You're trying to set up, but like if you set 3 and then play Demise, and then you just set more and maybe summon Ray, they're just gonna, before you end, they're just gonna make Trisbania or even Zerobros, because they have IP and Babel, and they're just gonna blow up your field. There's not that much you can do about that unless you draw the impermanence and just play the impermanence straight away. Or some people have been playing what's that called? Forbidden Chalice to stop the IP play. But I found going second, it was much better with the Into the Void build.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether I was drawing well or just been playing average players, Orcus players in the regionals. In YCF Pasadena, I lost quite a few times to Orcus, so I'm trying to work out a plan for YCS Milan, which is quite important for World's points for me.
Yeah. So with regards to Pasadena, obviously the format's a bit different in the sense that you're against a very different player base. Do you feel like that had an impact as well, or do you think it was just? Do you think there's a regional impact there?
It was quite strange. There wasn't anything involving jet lag because I arrived on a Wednesday night, and I'm traveling so much this past season, going to different countries for regionals because of the World's Race, and going to as many YCS as I can. So it wasn't the jet lag. In terms of player base, it's very strange that you say that, because last time I was playing the game like 5-6 years ago, I found that it was more difficult in Europe in a YCS than it was in America. And that isn't to say that I think European players are better than American players. That's not exactly true, because I had a theory that because in Europe, you most of the time, some of the times you need a passport and you need to exchange currency to go from YCS to YCS, and you need to fly. Whereas in America, you don't need to exchange currency. There's no language barrier. You don't need to. Sometimes you don't even need to fly. So you get more casual players going to YCS. Whereas the people that fly, change currency, and deal with the language barrier, they're the ones that have dedicated more time to the game. So you generally face slightly better players in the Swiss and Europeans. But now it's kind of flipped reverse. I've been having much better results in a European YCS and an American YCS. I'm not actually quite sure why. But I tried to blame it on variance at the beginning in the first 2 American YCSs. Maybe I just had a bad run of like Swiss opponents, but now it's, I think, my 4th American YCS back, or third. And
well, it might be interesting to see the ratios of the different decks you play against.
Right. So I actually only played against 2 Orcus in the Swiss in YCS Pasadena. 1 striker, and the rest were really weird decks, because I only made it to round 7 in the Swiss. This is the worst I have done in a YCS in a long time. That doesn't include the first 2 YCS of me coming back after not playing for 5 years. Those were actually worse, but I wasn't on form. But every other YCS that I've did not do well in, they were all in the last 2 rounds, mostly in the last round where I lost. So to go out seventh round was actually kind of embarrassing. I lost to Mech Knights. I played against two Mech Knights, and one in the first round, which I almost lost, and the second one in, I think, round 5, and which that one I did lose. So they actually just put so much pressure, so much with the Alistair, with the invocation plays and things like that. They put so much pressure that at some point I couldn't deal with it.
We saw that with Mech Knights at UK Nets a couple of years ago, I think, when that was actually added into the Trickstar Striker engine. But I don't want to dwell too much on the events where you've struggled. Let's focus a bit more on these regionals that you've been winning and the success that you've had.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. After YCS Lima, I played 4 regionals in 2 weeks, all 4 of them in the UK, and they were all like 100-man sized or slightly more. I managed to top 4 the first one, win the second one, win the third one, and then top 4 the fourth one.
Which is really, really strong. You don't see that from many UK players.
Yeah, I think you only see it in players that go to the World Race.
Yeah, pretty much.
And yeah, I was kind of surprised as well because I thought I would, maybe win one of them and then go X1 in the others. But it was like Into the Void Striker was just so good. It's so explosive going second. And the only I lost 2 matches, and both of them were to Pendulum. It's just almost an impossible matchup, especially if you go second, if you lose the die roll. Yeah. So I'm hoping it's kind of like the situation with Thunder Dragon in the past, where my builds were weak against Thunder Dragon, but the other popular decks were strong against Thunder Dragon. So you literally just don't side or main anything specifically for Thunder Dragon, because you don't want to just spend up space for that one matchup that you might face potentially just once in the tournament. And sometimes you won't even face any. So that was the case with Pendulum. I was just hoping that people would be deterred because of the Orcus, or the Orcus would take them out before I get a chance to face them.
And for the most run, that did work out.
Yeah, it did work out. I think in the past 3 Pendulum matchups I had, one of them was in YCS Lima, one of them was in the regional, and the third one was in the regional. I think I won 1 game out of the 3
struggling a bit there.
It was just crazy. Like one of them, he just beats me going first. Like he just brings out 2 Majesties and like negates, and I just couldn't do anything. And then this was in Lima, and in game 2, I thought I had a really good. And Lima, I was playing the demise build, so I demised, and then I set up like lots of back rolls, and he drops Denko, and I'm like, okay, I've lost.
Yeah, that is a bit unfortunate. Following on from these rounds, you're one of the players who I think learns the most from the ways that you interact with your opponent and how you perform in every single game, and your decision making. Do you think that had a big impact on how you played in the regionals that you won? Or do you think you got away with a few cases of, soft misplays?
I definitely made a couple of misplays, and the round that I make the most misplay is probably round 1, because you're not quite. This is why it's actually better if you have time in the morning. You should play a few test games, because you just woke up, your mind isn't at full form. You should sort of warm it up before. So yeah, there were some misplays. Against matchups that I'm not used to, there were a couple of softer misplays. I don't think I found many, if any, hard misplays.
Okay.
And it was more. I was so tired during this region as well, because I wasn't driving because they were so far away, and I had to take the train for 1, and then sleep over either there or at another location close to the second regional, and then I had to take the train from the second regional to the first regional to the second regional, either on the night before or the morning during, which is the trains on Sunday in the UK are extremely unreliable, and
Yeah.
there aren't many trains. So getting from some of those stranger locations, from some of those obscure locations, were quite difficult, and that made me extremely tired.
Yeah.
And
You're just
that,
going to be turning up at really awkward times.
yes, and I was like cold, hungry, and tired at the same time from round one. So I was playing a couple of misplays against the weirder matchups that I'm not used against, but I think against like the Orcas, definitely not Sky Striker. I don't think I
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I made many if any misplays. But
Do you think? Do you think?
here's the thing
Yeah.
about misplays. I used to think, and I still do, that if you don't find a misplay, then something is wrong. That means you're not improving.
Yeah.
Because some people just see misplays as like hard misplays. For example, if you have, let's say, system down and you forget to play. Actually, no, if you have Into the Void that you have to resolve in the end phase and you forgot to resolve it, and then you just add from Shizuku and then you have to discard that card, that's a hard misplay. But there's lots
Yeah.
of soft misplays that you don't really know they're misplays until later on. It's arguable whether they are misplays. So, depending on the information that you have at that time. And
Hmm.
I think to improve, I had to be so strict with myself to find these smaller misplays and just dig deep.
So I did want to ask a couple of things. One being, every deck when you build it, you build your side deck. It has a particular siding strategy, so you have ideas of cards you would like to take out in particular matchups, etc. Did you have a set list of go-to side outs from this deck?
Yeah, I make a list of cards side in and side out versus every matchup, going first or second.
Yeah.
And for the regionals, I changed up the list that you're seeing slightly, but
Okay.
mostly the side deck. I think the main deck remained the same. So I don't have that list anymore because I sort of I delete them after every tournament. So just looking at the list, I think the general plan, because you're blinding second, so that in game 2 and 3, sometimes they let you go first against certain decks let you go first and certain players let you
Yeah.
go first because you're blind second. So the
Hmm.
the strategy is to side in the trap tricks. You can side out one impermanence or maybe even all three impermanents, and then side in the compose and lost wind. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So the cards you side out sometimes can be one cosmic if you expect to go first. You can side out. Set rotation isn't that great going first, I find. So you can side out set rotation. You can side out
Yeah.
impermanence. Sometimes against a deck that you need to side out more against. You can side out one into the void as well. Um, yeah, it depends on the matchups, but mostly because it's regionals. I decided to play a bit more spell and trap removal. Like True Draco is quite popular. Some really weird random decks are quite popular, and I maxed
Yeah.
out on the shared rides because shared rides is not only for striker. It can be for um Solomon Great going first as well, and
Hmm.
it's also I also side roughly two copies versus decks that I have too many dead cards for. So, for
Okay.
example,
Yeah.
like Altergeist or Subterra going first. Like
Hmm.
the Core by the Graves um is okay versus Subterra because it hits the Fiendus, and it's okay versus versus Altergeist, but the Shark Cannons they're just not, and there can only be one. There's too many cards to side out sometimes versus some of these rogue decks. So Shed Ride usually
Yeah.
just goes in. Like even against Mech Knight, you're trying to survive one turn. If you survive one of their turns against Mech Knights, you pretty much win. But
Yeah.
Shed Ride just goes in place of some of the dead cards potentially against them
Okay.
because they do surge a lot as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I guess it's applicable against all sorts. You've mentioned a few of them already, but I mean, if you go up against literally any rogue deck that does some searching, then at least it's applicable, and you can remove something that's not going to perform so well.
Yeah, precisely. So one of the choices that people might be confused about is two Hayate, two Kaina,
Mm.
instead of three Hayate. And I got a lot of abuse from,
Really?
from some of the good players when I showed them in Pasadena. I did. I've been doing that since YCS Lima, and I have never, ever needed the third Hayate.
Yeah.
Especially not because of the attacking directly thing.
Hmm.
Sometimes I need like another striker monster. It's very rare that you run out because you have silent universe and you have base, and you play correctly. Unless it gets into a ridiculous grind, you shouldn't really ever run out. But if you run
Yeah.
out of striker monsters, then it doesn't matter if you're playing three Hayate, one kinda, because you're running out of the striker monsters anyway.
Yeah.
It's just that
It's
when
the
you
same number.
need the third Hayate to attack directly, and you never
Yeah.
do because against matchups, let's say Altergeist or Subterra or the striker mirror, when you go for area on Ray, Chain Ray, instead of going for the Hayate, you go for Kaina
Yeah.
because that the first Hayate that people usually use it for is to waste it for area. So like, because I'm
Hmm.
not wasting any Hayates for area, I have the same amount of Hayates to use to attack directly as everyone else.
Yeah.
Um, and the reason I want to double Kaina is because there's a lot of like against Orcust or against anyone that puts a lot of pressure. Because right now, Striker can die randomly even if they have control, versus just anyone that puts a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Like you know, like Thunder Dragons or the combo Thunder Dragons or even like Mech Knights and Orcust. So sometimes you before you end your turn, you might just go before you go to Suzuku, you go to Kaina, you stop one of their monsters from attacking. And then,
Yep.
you know, when they attack next turn, you bring out Ray and you use Ray and bring out the other kind and stop an attack. So you just basically survive that way.
Also, you mentioned that you don't want, because you're not wasting the first Hayate for your Area Zero play.
Yep.
If you're choosing second, the Kaina actually does something.
Yeah, the kind of does something. Well, if I'm choosing second, like, then it's most likely going to the Hayate the first turn, unless, most likely. So, in that regards, people might think you might need the third Hayate, but in testing, in all the tournaments I've played recently, I just never needed the third Hayate. Like by then the game would have been, against certain matchups, almost over by your second turn, or especially your third turn. Your third turn, you shouldn't be needing Hayate because of all the Into the Voids and. So are you still there? I'm not sure.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't really see the signal. Because
No.
of all the Into the Voids and how you fill your graveyard, you definitely don't need Hayate to dump by the second or third turn. You might need Hayate for the direct attack sometimes in the grind, but that's not common. Especially not the third one. And because you have Silent Universe and you have Hercules base, by the third turn you're recycling Kagari. You just bring out Kagari and then like Widow Anchor everything attack kind of thing. You don't actually go into Hayate.
Yeah, that's fair enough. On the topic of, slightly different choices within your deck, are you intending to change this moving forward?
For YCS Milan,
Well,
definitely.
so we
any
won't show this off until after Milan, but Milan and the future.
future. Well, the future is up until the next set because the next set might change things that are currently unknown because we don't know like the TCG exclusive and stuff like that. But there are going to be a lot of regionals attended by myself, like after YCS Milan. I think for the regionals, I don't really think that much about the deck, so I might stick to something similar to this. Maybe changing one or two cards. But for YCS Milan, I need another plan. For so you're gonna upload this on Sunday, right? Because I was thinking of main decking system now.
Okay.
Instead of main decking 2 copies, side decking 1 copy. So it's just literally I have no problem with any matchup apart from Orcust. Obviously I have a problem against the Pendulum matchup, but I'm just gonna sacrifice that match. I just hope I don't face it.
By the time this goes out, we'll be able to see whether or not that decision was worked out.
Yeah, I'm speaking to a lot of good players about Fury right now, and I'm going to be doing quite a lot of testing tonight. So we'll see if that works. So basically, the idea is that if they go for the IP play, System Down just blows them out. especially when you're going second. And I think seeing system down with the three into the voids and the potential engage draws and meta fusion and upstart goblin, you're very likely to see one of the two one of the two system downs going second. Against the other matchups, because the deck is so strong against the other matchups anyway, having that one dead card is okay because you get rid of it with area or multi-roll. And it's not dead against the mirror as well. With the mirror, you can get rid of their striker link and then any striker links in the graveyard as well, especially Kagari, so they're not putting them back with Hercules Face or their own Signet universe. So that's huge in the grind game. Obviously, they get to bring back Ray, but you're more likely going to plan to play system down when you have Shark Cannon.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just need a better matchup currently against the Orcust builds. And right now, I think it's okay for Striker because with the, if you've seen with the past YCS Pasadena, they Striker Orcust has been doing really well and one of them won. And they built that deck because priority of Orcust. So they wanted an extra edge in game one versus Orcust. And because they're playing into the voids, they can't play hand traps.
Yeah.
But they set up Shark Cannons and Widow Anchor and then still have their Orcust play. And in the mirror match, in the pure Orcust matchup, it's very, very strong. So it's pretty good for Striker right now because as a Striker player, you want to play against the Striker Orcust. You have more chance against that deck than you do against the pure Orcust deck because they can potentially set up the Orcust normal play, which you have to deal with, and they have a hand trap like Ash. So that's really strong. And with the Into the Void build, even if you go second, I found that if you don't see an engage going second after all those Into the Voids, then all the matches that don't see engage going second, I basically lose.
Sure. Yeah.
It's stronger versus the Striker Orcust because they bring out Kagari. So I have a constant access to Kagari by using Shark Cannon and taking their Kagari.
Yep. There's no way they're getting rid of that from their grave.
No, I don't think there is. No.
Yeah.
Oh, actually there is. Like, if I system down, then I
yeah.
get rid of it for them. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna keep recycling their Kagari.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. Well, thanks very much for coming on.
Hopefully it works out.
Sharing insights. Yeah, I'm
you
sure
are welcome.
I'm sure there'll be another deck profile coming out from you on this weekend.
Hopefully.
And congratulations on winning those regionals and making all those tops. And good luck in the future.